Welcome back. As Congress debated energy legislation just last week, a disturbing story was quietly spreading about an internal report at the EPA that had to be used or hushed. What is the word? Hushed before anyone heard about it. The report debunked the science behind global warming, and its conclusions proved so inconvenient that that report was shelved.
All right, so we have the person who wrote this report, Alan Carlin, a researcher at the EPA and the author of that controversial report. He joins us live this morning from D.C. Good morning to you, Mr. Carlin.
Good morning.
All right, so most of us are not scientists. You are. You've worked for the EPA for 38 years. Tell us in a nutshell what your report said this spring.
The most important finding was that EPA, in my view, needed to look at the science behind global warming and not depend on reports issued by the United Nations, which is what they were thinking of doing and have done.
And in fact, it's problematic because for the last 11 years, temperatures had been dropping. So your report pretty much turned the whole global warming debate on its head. And what happened to your report? I understand it was hushed up.
My supervisor decided not to forward it to the group within EPA who had the responsibility for preparing an overall report which would guide EPA on whether to find that the emission of global warming gases would be something that EPA should regulate.
Right, and why should Americans care about that? Because they just passed cap and trade Friday night, at least the House did, and maybe this report could have changed some of those congressmen and women's minds. Here's the email from your supervisor after you submitted the report. It's unbelievable. It says this: "The time for such discussion of fundamental issues has passed for this round. The administrator and the administration has decided to move forward on endangerment, and your comments do not help the legal or policy case for this decision. I can only see one impact of your comments given where we are in the process, and that would be a very negative impact on our office." There's something illegal about that, is there not, sir?
I have no idea, but it does indicate that at least my supervisor did not want to raise these issues to the groups within EPA that do have the responsibility for preparing the overall report.
Well, look, here you are. You're a man of science. You're just presenting the facts as you see them, and yet it looks like your bosses were involved in political interference. We're not going to present Alan's findings because it's not helpful to the administration's argument.
You have just read the really important I think email, and I think it speaks for itself.
All right, let's take a look at what the EPA is now responding to, because by the way, they didn't want these emails to get out. Somebody anonymously sent these emails to a newspaper. Here's what the EPA says: "Claims that this individual's opinions were not considered or studied are entirely false. This administration and this EPA administrator are fully committed to openness, transparency, and science-based decision-making. These principles were reflected throughout the development of the proposed endangerment finding, a process in which a broad array of voices were heard and an agency review was conducted." That's a bunch of gobbledygook that I don't even really get, other than they say that your report was considered. Do you agree with that?
All that I know was that I was told that it was not forwarded to the people working on the report. What actually happened is not known to me.
Yeah. Since this story hit the fan, everything okay at work back at the EPA, Alan?
Things are a little strained.
Yeah.
But as of last night, I did still have a job.
All right.
All right. Well, how dare you for sticking to your convictions, Alan? I'm joking. Alan Carlin, research analyst, author of the report, 38-year veteran at the EPA. Thanks for sharing your mind-blowing story with us this morning.
And thanks, Alan. And a scientific point of view that we don't hear much these days about the The globe is cooling? Who knew? Meanwhile, hey, look who's